Welcome to this Total War Three Kingdoms Let's Play, where we'll be looking at heroes and the guan system, the beating heart of the game. Now this is probably one of the most complex Total War titles that we've released to date, so please sit down, grab yourself a whole bucket of popcorn, and ready yourself for one of the longest Let's Plays I've ever done. I'm Wheels, and today I'll be playing as Liu Bei, legendary commander and virtuous idealist. Let's take a look at the story so far. Beginning our campaign in the iron mines of Dong Commandery, we established our territory on the banks of the Yellow River. As our lands grew, our neighbour and friend Tao Chen pleaded with us for aid as a corrupt official in his court ignited a war with the dangerous warlord Cao Cao to the south. We honourably pledged to join Tao Chen in his defence and stop Cao Cao in his tracks before innocents were harmed. But just as soon as it started, our friendship found its end when Tao Chen, pushed by the stress of the war, fell to the cruelty of old age. On his deathbed, and moved by our noble actions, Tao Chen offered up his lands and court to us so that we could lead his people to glory with our factions joined in confederation. Liu Bei seeks to bring unity to the land, and his unique faction currency will increase as long as he keeps those who serve him happy with his rule. A number of things will increase this, but the main way to gain it is by keeping the members of your court satisfied. You can then spend unity to convince Han officials of your legitimacy and annex their holdings without bloodshed, but keeping an ample supply will provide its own boons. Liu Bei is a commander, one of the 5 different classes of hero in Three Kingdoms, each one bringing their own unique skills and abilities to both the campaign map and the battlefield. Commanders like Liu Bei are masters of a happy court and soldiery, using their authority to raise the satisfaction of their subordinates and keeping the morale of their soldiers high. Sentinels are artisan builders and are stout in battle, able to lock down choke points and enemy heroes, as well as inferring their defensive skills on their infantry. The Vanguard excels at shock battle tactics with rapid cavalry charges and can recruit units to an army with greater efficiency, saving vital funds. Your champion will be able to outduel any opponent with supreme melee ability and vitality. As a leader of the people, they bring bountiful growth to the peasantry. And finally, the strategist, who brings agile and lethal formations to his forces and can outwit any rival, will annihilate your opposition in a hail of arrow fire and artillery. These characters are the lifeblood of Three Kingdoms and will act as your leaders, generals, politicians, governors and spies. Looking to our current campaign, we must first complete our siege of Longye, to complete our current mission and establish a new power base for the birth of our empire. Our advisors predict defeat against the city walls. They do not know the strength of our unity. Victory is ours, and these puppets of the tyrant Dong Zhuo threaten us no longer. With that, our mission is successful, and we can now look to strengthen our position further. After that well-fought battle, Liu Bei and his timeless ally Zhang Fei have gained a new rank. Each class of character comes with their own unique skill tree, granting a variety of powerful effects. Depending on the type of person they are, different characters of the same class can start in different areas of the skill tree. My recently espoused wife, for example, starts more centrally due to her nature as an outsider. Skills can affect a wide variety of things depending on how your character is deployed. Some will affect the combat skills of their personal retinues, or be applied to the entire army that a character is deployed in. Some will give bonuses to the lands that a character governs, and others will give powerful abilities to your character in combat. All of these skills, however, will improve the 5 attributes that are the makeup of all the characters in Total War Three Kingdoms. A character's attributes define their effectiveness in different aspects of your campaign. For example, as a commander, Liu Bei is naturally authoritative, giving a huge boost to the morale of his retinue and a faction-wide benefit to the satisfaction of the members of his court. The instinctive Jianfei, however, brings a huge bonus to his damage dealing ability and can help cut costs when mustering forces. If we increase Jianfei's instinct by investing in the Fury skill, we can see those benefits improve. Characters are not one-dimensional though, and by investing in the right skills and giving the right equipment, a Vanguard can be just as authoritative as their commander companions. The way in which you manage these characters is at the heart of everything in Total War 3 Kingdoms. They are the most important and powerful assets your faction has, and potentially the most dangerous forces you'll have to deal with in your campaign. Speaking of managing our characters, after the big merger with the late Tao Chen's faction, a few new faces have joined our court. Though some have begun to adapt to life under my rule, Tao Shang's employment has not been as smooth. As the previous heir to Tao Chen's throne, Tao Shang is understandably vexed after being demoted to a low-level court position under my rule when his father passed away, leaving his lands to me. Because of this, he now harbours an internal resentment towards my court and has taken a huge hit to his satisfaction. His time in my court may not last long. For now, we'll end the turn and see what becomes of him in the winter. It's a bitter winter in ancient China, and Cao Cao's borders grow closer to ours as he takes more of Chen Commandery. At home, our suspicions were realised as Tao Shang has officially departed our court in search of more gainful employment. Characters in Three Kingdoms do not cease to exist when they leave a faction. If the court in which they were employed was not satisfactory to them, or if their faction ceases to exist, they will wander the lands searching for a new master. Tao Shang left because his satisfaction hit 0. A character's satisfaction rating shows their overall opinion of you as a ruler and the position they have under your employ. Things like having close friends with them in court or on military campaigns, a big fancy title with matching salary, or being gifted with lots of fancy trinkets will increase it. Equally, being employed in a faction where you're never given anything to do, you work with people you hate, and you receive no recognition for your rank will leave you understandably annoyed. The most important aspect of keeping people happy is properly utilising their talents. With the siege of Lanier completed, we have reached the auspicious rank of Second Marquis, which has unlocked the ability to assign our characters into ministerial positions. Let's open up the court screen and take a look. From the court screen, we can see all the available positions in our fledgling empire, with further positions being unlocked as our faction rank grows. On the right, we have all the characters willing to offer up their services to our court and the price it takes to hire them. These characters could be newly formed heroes awaiting their first opportunities, or ex-members of some prestigious court seeking a new master. Equally, they could be enemy spies attempting to infiltrate our halls. At the bottom, we have all the nobles that currently fly our banners, including my sworn brothers, my wife, and the new nobles that join me in the Confederation. More importantly, right in the middle of the screen is the hierarchy of power in our faction, with the legendary Liu Bei himself right at the top as the faction leader. Either side of him are the highest stations that characters in your faction can achieve, the heir to your throne and the Prime Minister. These roles will define the DNA of your faction, as any bonuses that your characters would bestow on your entire court if they were the leader of the faction will also take effect when given the role of heir or Prime Minister. By opening up our family tree, we can see that I currently have no son or daughter to take my place should I perish in battle. I could adopt one of my court nobles into my family and name them the heir to my holdings, but the costs of the paperwork are a bit out of my reach at the moment. My wife, however, is already eligible, and as a commander, her authority is quite high in comparison to the other candidates, making her a natural fit with the faction-wide satisfaction bonus it brings. As my wife is my only real relative in the faction, no one should turn their noses up at her new position. But should a new heir be born in the future, natural competition will start to arise in my family for the throne. If we look back at the court, we still have a few positions to fill, so let's peruse the candidates that we have on offer. From looking at the character list, we can see straight away that my brother-in-arms Jianfei is not quite as satisfied with his position as Guan. This is due to one of the other key defining elements of characters, their traits. By looking at Guan traits, we can see that his fraternal nature is providing him with a natural affinity with those around him, making him more likely to stick around. Not only that, but as a man of honor, he refuses to let his ambitions get away from him, which is why even though my two sworn brothers share the same rank, Zhongfei's desire for a higher rank in court is providing more dissatisfaction than Guan. The majority of traits will add to or take away from a character's stats, and some may also provide additional effects, like Guan intimidating nature allowing him to scare enemies on the battlefield, or Gu Peishe's superstitious nature randomly triggering events for the faction. Let's go back to our court screen and assign a new Chancellor. As Zhongfei is the most aggrieved by his lack of title, he seems like a good choice for the role. His new position of Chancellor will provide us with a faction-wide benefit to public order and the income that we receive from the peasantry. This role is quite prestigious, and it will keep him happy with his position all the way up to rank 8. After that, he will start to covet a higher position, and his satisfaction will once again start to waver. Satisfaction for your small council members is extremely important, as a noble of his stature leaving your court will trigger a full-blown civil war in your lands, so select your council carefully. We can remove him from his position in the future, but doing so would cause a huge rift between you and the character. With his brand new position, Zhongfei is now absolutely ecstatic. Let's hope that his drunken buffoonery doesn't make me regret my decisions. With Zhongfei now appointed as our new Chancellor, his wages have increased considerably. Seeing as his satisfaction is through the roof after his new position in the council, I reckon we can exploit his goodwill to drop his title rank a few pegs, and with it, his wage. Perfect. That's put us back in the black, even if only momentarily. Should we wish to raise the satisfaction of another character in the future, and we need a quick fix, doing the opposite and raising a character's title is a good way to score some brownie points, though an increase in rank is a little more costly, as you can see. Now that we have our first council member waiting to serve, let's put him to work in his new role. As a member of the faction council, Zhongfei can provide us with special missions to enact every 5 turns, based on what he thinks needs improving around the kingdom. As a vanguard, Zhongfei is primarily focused on the military, and he spotted a weakness on our border closest to the forces of Cao Cao. Without an army looking to the south, Cao Cao could sneak into our territory and take us by surprise. Thanks Zhongfei, we'll head out immediately. I'm quickly going to move our force to Pengcheng to make sure we have someone on the front lines should Cao Cao decide to march on our lands. But for now, let's end the turn and bid goodbye to this harsh winter.
Contemplation is required.
Spring brings colour back to our lands, and news on the wind that plans are in motion to turn the tyrant's adopted son against him. Closer to home though, more troubling events have taken place. The conniving warmonger of Cao Cao has laid waste to our southern neighbours, and now he builds his forces in Pengcheng, waiting to enact a second assault on our lands. And mustering just outside the town walls is a familiar but not welcome sight. Tao Xiong, previous heir to Tao Chen's lands, has not just left our court, but joined Cao Cao's forces to enact his revenge against us. Here he lays, assembling his forces, waiting for a chance to strike. If we let them continue to build their armies, we'll soon be overwhelmed. We need to make plans to stop them in their tracks, and fast. Before that though, let's make sure the situation at home is stable. Over the passing of the seasons, a new follower joined our court. A scholar that can improve the rate at which our heroes learn new skills. This follower is one of the many different ancillary items that you'll be able to equip your heroes with during your campaigns. Broken down into their battle equipment, their trusty steed, their trusted companions, and the trinkets they hold. The weapons your character hold, for example, will change their fighting style in battle. Equipping dual gyan will increase their damage output, that reduce the effectiveness of dodging blows that comes with having a spare hand free. As a commander, Liu Bei can only equip the items that match his class, and as such, the mighty halberd and spear that his brothers bring into the fray are unavailable to him. All ancillaries come in different levels of quality, ranging from common all the way up to the unique and powerful items known throughout the land. The scholar that has just joined us only applies his effect when equipped on a faction leader, heir, or prime minister, so let's add him to Liu Bei's roster and start improving our generals and governors. We have another follower here, the law enforcer, who would be perfect for improving public order in our lands, but Liu Bei only has room for one follower, so we'll have to turn to my wife and recently anointed heir to oversee him. Seems the law enforcer is part of the martial law set. Ancillaries in Three Kingdoms can be combined with other complementary items to give further benefits to those who equip the whole set. Unfortunately, we don't have this particular text, so we'll have to keep an eye out for it as we continue our campaign. Whilst we're giving out the treasures of our faction, we should look towards our upcoming battle with Cao Cao and start equipping our generals to give us as much of an advantage as we can take. This stone axe accessory seems a perfect fit for Zhong Fei. With its increase in instinct, it will also increase the damage output of our front lines. For Liu Bei, this text on the methods of the Sima will increase his cunning, which will give his unique E-archers some additional ammunition, as well as also increasing the army's military supplies each turn, which will allow us to survive a lengthier campaign. One of the followers that we didn't assign was this diviner. His foretelling of victory should improve the morale of our soldiers, but we can only benefit from his effects if the character he is equipped to is leading their army. At the moment, Liu Bei is currently the commander of his force, denoted by his leftmost position in the unit bar at the bottom here. As he's already using his follower slot, we can reassign one of our sub-commanders to the head of the army. To see who would be a better fit, we can open up the effects panel for a catch-all list of every single effect this character gives and when. Guan here would be great at stopping attrition and allowing us to replenish when the battle is over, but Zhong Fei's ability to break enemy morale seems a better fit. Let's equip him with the diviner, and then we'll appoint him as the commander of the army. Also, as a cavalry specialist, this shabby red horse seems a pretty abysmal mount for the new leader of my army. Let's equip him with this beautiful thoroughbred, which will improve his combat efficiency tenfold. Now that we're more than adequately equipped for battle, we should assess the chemistry of our generals themselves. With a good mix of heroes in your army, you might think yourself ready for any battle, but should those heroes find each other insufferable, the clash between them could cause rivalries and leave your general's satisfactions wanting. Every character in Total War 3 Kingdoms has a core set of philosophies that they live their lives by, defined by their experiences and traits. Zhong Fei is passionate about those he considers friends and lets his intimidating presence and impulsive nature guide him. When placed in court or an army with characters that share complementary traits, relationships can form between the two characters. Zhong Fei and his sworn brothers have very sturdy relationships backed up by a long history of positive events and coinciding opinions, and as such have reached the oath-sworn level of relationship. These characters will gladly put their lives on the line to defend each other, and if they were to witness one another fall in battle, they would be thrown into a murderous rampage. As Zhong Fei shares court with those he calls friend, his satisfaction naturally increases as well. Though you may start with only a few relations, as you progress through the game you will encounter more and more other characters who you will either break bread with or curse their name. After joining Tao Chen in war against him, Cao Cao's relationship with Liu Bei has certainly diminished. These relationships will affect almost all of the systems in Three Kingdoms, from the way in which factions treat each other, where courtless characters will offer their services to, and even in the way that these characters will talk to each other in battle. When checking the compatibility of characters, hovering over this icon on your character list will give you a quick red/green icon to denote whether your time spent together will improve or decrease relationships. We're almost finished preparing our army. But first, we have a couple of slots left in Guan Yu's retinue for some new units. When selecting new units for a character's roster, it's good to select units that are complementary to their skill set. As a champion, Guan Yu is well suited to leading spear and halberd infantry, like these medium and heavy spear guard. Some units available to characters will be unique to your factions, like these E-archers, whilst others will only be available to your class, like the aforementioned spear guard or these awesome hybrid Azure dragons that we'll be able to recruit once we hit rank 8. I'm going to recruit some of these heavy spear guard to bolster our numbers a bit. Doing so will add a half strength unit to Guan retinue, which will take time to muster to full strength. They won't be quite as strong when we rush them into battle like this, but needs must. A character's retinue will stick with them wherever they travel, and can be split apart from their army or undeployed without disrupting their unit composition or experience. When deploying a new army, characters will spawn with their retinues ready to muster their forces back up again, with the cost of deploying them raised to reflect the cost of their new army. My wife, Liu Huimin, will be a good choice for keeping my homeland safe as I march into Cao Cao's camps. We've got this lovely set of armor here as well that should keep her safe. When you equip your characters with ancillary items, their character art and in-game model will change to reflect their new gear. And with that, I think we've done enough preparation. It's time to take the fight to Cao Cao and press our fleeting advantage.
Do not yield. Show no pity.
Our siege was costly, but we have emerged victorious. And although that coward Cao Cao has escaped our clutches, his 3 sub-commanders lay defeated and held at spear point. When you capture an enemy general in combat, their lives are in your hands. By executing them, they will be permanently defeated, and any ancillaries they brought with them to battle are yours for the taking. This is seen as an act of barbarity amongst your peers though, further destroying your diplomatic relations with your enemy. Any friends of your victim will also bear an unforgettable hatred towards you as well, but their rivals will be suitably impressed. Should you be feeling more merciful, releasing the character will return them safely to their faction, who will provide a ransom for their fair treatment. However, should the characters you captured not be content with their position in their current faction, they might just be swayed into offering their services to you in exchange for their lives. It must be my lucky day, because both of Cao Cao's cousins have seen the greener grass in my lands, and are jumping ship before their lord's inevitable demise in my hand. I'm seriously strapped for cash right now, and hiring too many new characters into my faction is going to be expensive, so for now, I'll just take the higher leveled Xiahou Duan under my wing. As for Xiahou Yuan, we might not have room for him now, but by releasing him honorably, we may just earn his trust should he find himself seeking employment when Cao Cao's holdings crumble in the future. Finally, the petulant Tao Shang, with his plans for revenge and ashes around him, claims that he would rather die than forgive our transgressions. We have no use for sentimentality, especially towards turncoats. With the balance of power now in our favour, and Cao Cao's top general now flying our banner, it is time to go forth and crush his faction into the dust.
You join me in the midst of my campaign to unwind the tyrant Dong Zhuo's claw-like grip on China. I'm playing as Cao Cao, the master puppeteer. His failed assassination of Dong Zhuo led to a hasty retreat, which is the situation Cao Cao finds himself in on turn 1. But that's just the beginning of his story. Let's look at the current state of the board in my playthrough. While Cao Cao's current empire may appear fairly meager, taking a closer look at the rest of the pieces in play reveals the strength of his current situation. Flanked by a triumvirate of peace-loving coalition pals, my lands possess an improbable amount of security. The needs of my neighbors perfectly align, and it's no coincidence. Cao Cao's unique manipulate ability, combined with some strategic military support, has allowed me to delicately influence the geopolitical landscape to ensure security and safe passage.
Do we have to?
In what can be a brutally hostile area of central China. As an excellent melder of emotions and shrewd statesman, Cao Cao is capable of having the entirety of China dancing to the beat of his drum. The undercover network brings an entirely new paradigm to total war, the art of subterfuge. Meet Lu Zhe, a high-ranking official in Dong Zhuo's administration. However, Liu Zhe is secretly working for us. We released him from our service, at least that's how it looked to the rest of the world, and sent him out into the global recruitment pool. As a skilled character, he was snapped up by Dong Zhuo and was granted the governorship of Anding Commandery. Officially, he's working for the tyrant, but secretly, he's building up a cover network in order to perform covert actions for us. And there's a lot he can do. If he decides his needs are best served elsewhere, he could join Dong Zhuo for real, or even take the power lent to him and secede to form a new faction with him at the helm. This can happen for non-spy characters as well. For instance, Huang Zhong, who starts the game as a character serving under Liu Biao, has broken away to form his own faction after becoming dissatisfied. Let's take a look at how spies work. More slots for spying will open up as I rank up my faction, and if I specialize my playstyle via government reforms. Three Kingdoms take on the tech tree. I'll complete the dedicated spy network reform and free up another slot for spying, so it's time to turn my attentions to other threats to my power, including some of my allies. After deploying a spy to any of the factions, they will sit in the recruitment pool awaiting employment to lead an army or take a place in the court. In this state, the spies can still garner a more detailed overview of an enemy faction's statistics, but have no agency to otherwise impact the faction. Clever utilization of spies can help me stay 10 steps ahead in my quest to unite China and mitigate the chances of an ally double-crossing me due to an incoming expansionist faction leader who has little sentimentality towards me compared to his predecessor. Don't forget to cast an ever-vigilant eye over your own character pool, because rival factions can and will install their own spies into your recruitment pool. In fact, I have my own fair share of concerns over this Dong Zhuo alumnus. Spies use two resources that dictate the level of power and risk they have within an enemy faction. The first, undercover network points, are shared between your spies per faction, and represent the support system of allies, safe houses, and resources for your spies. Cover points are individual to each spy and signify the quality of your spy's fake identity. Before we pull the trigger, let's browse the range of choices in the subterfuge toolset that Cao Cao could opt for. Court Noble actions represent the first tier of spy actions, where I can increase my own faction's diplomatic standing, mess with Dong Zhuo's bottom line via meddling with his trade efforts, steal ancillaries, or even taint the reputation of a character within the faction, perhaps with an eye to poaching them for myself, or even encouraging them to break away and form their own faction. Next up, we have general actions, which are available to characters leading troops and commanding generals. We can deny supplies, causing an ill-equipped army to begin starving to death. We can leak marching orders, making a faction more vulnerable to an ambush, or just straight up poison the military provisions, causing immediate casualties to the army in question. As the governor of Anding, Liu Zhe has access to the administrator spy actions. I plan to have him hand over the keys to the region to Cao Cao, but lower cost options could hand me various different advantages in taking the province via military means. For now, let's stick to our master plan and put the settlements of Anding under our control. It is advisable to keep a buffer of cover and network points, as triggering high-risk actions can lead to dilemmas which cost these resources and put the survival of your trusted spy on a knife edge. Looks like a rival politician in the Anding region has made Liu Zhe's escape unlikely. But as I need this land, I'm willing to sacrifice my spy for it. He was caught as he fled Anding, but Dong Zhuo, the merciless warlord, has chosen to spare him. It is possible he was just in a good mood, but there's a very real chance that Dong Zhuo has taken control of Liu Zhe and sent him back as a double agent within my own faction. I will have to treat him with a certain level of suspicion from now on. Granting him too much power could see Dong Zhuo play me at my own subterfuge game, whereas failing to give him the plaudits and responsibilities he deserves after his heroic effort behind enemy lines could also see him leave my faction and rejoin the real friends he made fighting in Dong Zhuo's ranks. These are intricacies of the all-new guan system, another revelation for the Total War formula. Make sure to subscribe for the upcoming video where we'll take a deep dive into the new layers of complexity this adds to your playthroughs. Dong Zhuo's heir and deadly warlord Lu Bu is ready to eliminate the dissidents and return the province to its former owner. Perhaps this region isn't truly the object of Cao Cao's desires. Cao Cao himself is at the heart of my real plan. Taking control of the Han Emperor, located here in Chang'an, means taking control of the entirety of the Han Empire, as Dong Zhuo does now. My master plan, many turns in the making, involved taking control of the Nanyang province, with its strategically valuable valley back door into Chang'an. if my covert capture of the Anding region hasn't left Dong Zhuo diverting the bulk of his military might northwards, then let's crank up the pressure one more notch to give Dong Zhuo yet another distraction. I'll spend some of Cao Cao's credibility to employ his unique ability to incite proxy wars, to create one last distraction to keep Dong Zhuo guessing. Dong Zhuo is a vicious warlord who almost everyone hates, but he has taken steps to avoid the ire of Huang Zhong due to his proximity to the child emperor. By manipulating the two faction leaders, I can force them to clash, giving me the final opening I need for my shot at uniting China under my banner. But that's not all spies are capable of. If a spy gets adopted into a warlord's family, they'll gain access to the most powerful spy actions in the entire game. These options allow you to destabilize the delicately poised political landscape and cause chaos on a global scale. In the case of Dian Wei here, if your spy is the heir and they kill the leader, they take control of that faction. Jumping forward to when my spy has regained their cover, he can attempt to hand over the faction to me. This will trigger a civil war to break out between those loyal to them and those loyal to the old ways. You've seen the devious toolkit of the all-new spy system. Drop a comment below and tell us how you'll manipulate others and conquer China using espionage.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the first of two videos exploring the all-new diplomacy system in Total War 3 Kingdoms. Our aim this time around is to revolutionise diplomacy, enabling players to influence, befriend, coerce and extort other factions in deeper and more powerful ways. The Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history is an age of personalities, and each faction is defined by the personality of the warlord who leads it. Indeed, if you have an existing diplomatic treaty with a warlord and he dies, handing the reins to his heir, who perhaps doesn't like you quite as much as his father, your diplomatic relationship with them can change significantly. Here we're in the early stages of a campaign playing as Liu Biao. A governor and gentleman of the Han Dynasty, he begins the campaign with the province capital of Xiangyang under his control. Not a significant territorial holding by anyone's standards, and with no farms of his own, food income, which is crucial to public order and military provisioning, will soon become an issue. Plus, he's in the cauldron of potential crises that is the centre of the campaign map. However, looking south, we can see that Liu Biao also begins with two vassals under his charge, Cai Mao and Huang Shu. And in Total War 3 Kingdoms, vassals are no longer simple sources of income and support. Cai Mao owns a livestock farm, and as food is now a tradable resource, let's try and make him our campaign breadbasket. Looks like he's got up to 6 units of food he can potentially provide us with, so let's make the request. You can now haggle in diplomacy, adding, removing or modifying offers until you can find a deal that the other guy is happy with. Asking Cai Mao for 6 food produces a negative figure here, indicating his unwillingness with the deal on the table, so we have to find something that he values enough in return to sweeten the deal. The quick way to find out his price is to click the Make This Work button. In this case, he's demanding quite a hefty sum, which is sort of understandable, given he's got something of a monopoly on food in the area. But it's quite a sum to sign up to this early in the campaign, so let's try and find something else that might satisfy him. Elsewhere, you can see that there's quite a raft of new treaties, deals and options available. Anything that's impossible to offer or demand in the current negotiation is greyed out, and certain options won't become available until your faction rank advances. Under diplomatic treaties, we have several offers available. Let's be the good guy and offer Cai Mao a guarantee of autonomy. Now, this is a promise that we'll never annex his faction into our own, but this is not something to take lightly. If we were to later break that promise, it would be viewed as an act of treachery and would negatively affect our reputation with all factions. As we can see, it's something he quite likes, but 6 food still outweighs it in his own mind. So let's drop the asking price to 5, and yes, he's willing to agree to that. We propose the deal, and the food will be ours next turn. This method of haggling can be used in all your negotiations as you massage the deal to find something that works for both of you. As you can see, there's a lot of new tools to play with. Let's take a quick look at a couple more. If you're short on cash, you can request it from another faction, and perhaps offer to pay it back each turn in installments to make the loan more palatable. If you've gained a reputation for treachery, of course, characters will be less inclined to trust you in such matters. However, a loan can really make the difference when you need a quick cash injection. You can also offer to support the independence of another vassal state as it attempts to shake off the yoke of its parent faction. This is basically an offer to support them if they go to war with their owners. It's a great way of weakening a powerful faction by appealing to the underdog to rise up. And if they choose to do so, you'll automatically join them in their war. However, if you then make peace with the parent faction, this will again be viewed as a treacherous act. You can now use the threat of war as a negotiating tactic, though you must be prepared for the consequences. Perhaps you're on a war footing and running at a budget deficit in order to maintain your armed forces. So you request a regular payment from another faction, and they are disinclined to lend. You then threaten to go to war with them if they don't comply. Now at this point, the faction compares your military strength to its own and weighs up a host of other factors, such as the number of wars it's already engaged in, which of you has the best and strongest allies, and your treachery rating, for example. It then decides whether the cost of that war outweighs the regular payments. And crucially, unlike peaceful negotiations, when you saber rattle the AI like this, you won't see the usual evaluation figures, making it a much riskier gambit. If they decide to call your bluff and reject your proposal, war is declared. Time to put your money where your mouth is. Certain core diplomacy functions can also be approached using the new Quick Deal menu, and this is a nice quality of life improvement. If we select non-aggression pacts, for example, we can see all the known factions who are capable of entering into such an agreement with us, colour-coded by who definitely will, who might, and who definitely won't. You can swiftly set up a host of agreements via the Quick Deal menu, and you can still haggle in order to fine-tune deals with those maybes. Okay, we'll leave Liu Biao to carve out his fledgling empire for now, but in short, diplomacy in Total War has changed enormously. With so many more levers to pull, chips to barter, and with a superfine level of control, a dedicated diplomat can engineer situations which were simply not possible before. Stay tuned for part 2, in which we'll explore the new forms of alliance you can forge, the reintroduction of an old fan favourite feature, region trading, and much more besides. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the next in our two-part series examining diplomacy in Total War 3 Kingdoms. 3 Kingdoms marks the most extensive rewrite of Total War's diplomacy system to date, and in the last video we covered deal-making, haggling, saber-rattling and more. Today we'll be dealing with the different forms of alliance and how they can help you to broker major blocks of power across the campaign map. There are now 2 key forms of alliance, coalitions and military alliances. Each offers different levels of choice, commitment and control, and they also share some important features. Both forms can have multiple members, enabling you to build large power blocks for mutual benefit, and simply by being in a coalition or alliance with other warlords, your diplomatic standing with the other members increases. Coalitions and military alliances also benefit the mobility of your armies. Here we're in the early phases of a campaign playing as Yuan Shao, who's currently besieging a town owned by the Han Empire. As he's in enemy territory, we can see he's getting a major negative to his army's military supplies each turn. Meanwhile, his eldest son Yuan Tan is holding the front at home, and instead gathering supplies each turn. Coalitions and military alliances give you new tracts of friendly territory in which to rest, replenish and resupply before striking out into enemy lands once more. So let's break down the 2 forms of alliance. A coalition is a looser, lower commitment sort of arrangement than a military alliance. Forming a coalition is relatively easy as long as you have a neutral or better diplomatic standing with the other party. Being at war with a mutual enemy is also a definite bonus, of course. Let's see if we can get a coalition signed with Liu Bei. He names his price, which we can well afford, and yes, the pact is signed. Now, if we arrange the diplomatic faction list by group, we can see we're now part of the newly formed Thundering Sky Coalition. Once a coalition is signed, any member can invite another warlord to join. But like many major actions that a warlord wishes to perform in a coalition, the consent of all parties is required. So if we go on to invite a new warlord to the coalition, for example, the action will be voted on by the other members, and the majority rules. So if we propose inviting Cao Cao to the coalition, for example, we can see Liu Bei looks well upon this. Diplomatic standing plays a strong role in voting, of course, so the higher your standing with other members, the more likely it'll be that they'll vote in favour of any coalition action you declare. Now that we're in a coalition, we gain visibility over our fellow members' lands, where our armies can of course now resupply on their travels. In addition, you can only switch characters and their retinues out of armies in friendly territory, and allied territory counts as this. Being in a coalition also means you're strengthening ties with increasingly friendly factions that might join you in your wars, but that is not a given. This early in the game, for example, with relatively small holdings and wars of their own to contend with, our coalition pals may not be so inclined to join in. As a loose arrangement, there's no formal obligation for coalition members to join each other's wars. So as we declare war on Yuan Shu, we see there's no vote required. We can then of course go cap in hand to our coalition members afterwards and seek their individual support in such a war. But their military support will still need some negotiation, especially if a coalition member is friendly towards the warlord you've just declared war on. In short, you can merrily engage in private wars without involving the entire coalition. Coalitions are easy to arrange and easy to leave too, but the benefits to maintaining a coalition are clear. Not least that the longer you're in a coalition, the better your diplomatic standing with certain factions becomes. If a faction joins and it turns out to be a thorn in your side, you can call a vote to kick them out, enabling you to manage membership, provided the other members agree. Jumping into a later save now, let's take a look at military alliances. Now, these are a higher commitment form of alliance, and warlords will need to be at the faction rank of Marquis to sign one, though this is not required to join an existing alliance. You can also transition a coalition into a military alliance on the strength of a vote, and again the warlord who proposes this must be a Marquis or better. Yuan Shao's current coalition sees him in league with Liu Biao and his vassals, plus Wang Kuang and Cao Cao. Cao Cao and Liu Biao are all for it, but Wang Kuang isn't, meaning 3 in favour and 1 against. So Wang Kuang leaves the party and we form a military alliance with Cao Cao and Liu Biao. The key differences between coalitions and military alliances revolve around the notion of shared defence. As soon as a military alliance is signed, you become part of a defensive pact. If war is declared against a member of an alliance, that member may choose to fight the aggressor in a private war, or call their allies to arms. All members of the alliance are duty-bound to uphold this and will then enter the war. You can also declare an alliance war against a third party, which of course goes to an immediate vote with the members. If the majority vote yes, the alliance will go to war with the target faction. There are only 2 ways to resolve an alliance war. Either you leave the alliance and sign peace with the opposing belligerents on your own terms, or the alliance votes as a group and once again a majority vote is needed on both sides to bring peace. Any minorities opposing peace will leave the alliance and continue in private wars against the original targets. Neither coalitions or alliances stop you from engaging in private wars, of course. You can still declare war or sign peace with other individual factions at your leisure. Now, all of this adds up to a system where, over the course of a campaign, you'll see coalitions form over time as different warlords' goals and situations align. The AI understands the value of such arrangements and will engage in them frequently. Some coalitions will be fleeting and will fall apart as goals diverge. Some will endure to become distinct power blocks, and some will solidify into powerful military alliances that the world begins to revolve around. Indeed, wars between significant long-term alliances become more common as the campaign reaches its later stages. Another classic diplomacy feature also makes its return in Three Kingdoms, and that's region trading. Alongside food, money, ancillaries, and numerous other diplomatic treaties, territory can now be used as a bargaining tool in diplomacy, and it's about the most valuable commodity going. It's a useful way of garnering major value to strike big deals, especially later in the campaign where you may have a surfeit of territory. If we approach Cao Cao and click the Trade Territory option, all our owned regions are shown, listed by commandery, with their constituent regions detailed below. You can only trade away regions which are adjacent to the territory of the warlord you're dealing with. So if we were to offer territory to Cao Cao, we can see that only Yingshuan Commandery is tradable, as it's the only one next to his lands. As you can see, productive farmland is very desirable, so we can demand a lot in return. In this case, let's try 4 food per turn for 10 turns, and a regular payment of 500 gold per turn. But a big ticket item like a tract of farmland can be useful in deals where the warlord's asking price may be high. In aggregate, these many changes to diplomacy enable you to achieve more than ever before. With a host of new big-ticket assets to trade, and with the ability to forge mighty alliances between powerful warlords, the campaign power play in Total War Three Kingdoms is at once more subtle, more complex, and more far-reaching than ever before. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more Three Kingdoms gameplay coming very soon.
Hello and welcome to our new Let's Play for Total War Three Kingdoms. Today we're playing the new ambush battle, the ambush of Suen Ren. This is our playable demo for Gamescom, so if you're there, you can play it for yourselves. Let's take a look at the events that led up to this ambush.
China is divided. It is a rich and fertile land where harmony once ruled, and may yet again. But now, the once proud capital of Luoyang lies in ruins, and all along the great Yellow River, a terrible conflict rages. Dong Zhuo, the tyrant who once held China in his iron grip, is beset on all sides. A coalition of warlords has formed to defy his rule. The wise Chancellor Cao Cao, the noble Liu Bei, and the great General Sun Jian have combined forces to thwart him at every turn. However, it is a marriage of convenience. Even now, the cunning Cao Cao looks beyond the fall of Dong Zhuo to his own future conquests. He has planted a spy in the court of his ally, Sun Jian, south of the Yangtze River, and watches for his opportunity to strike. Lady Sun, Sun Jian's noble daughter and one of his finest generals, leads her army in the east. Around her, she feels 1,000 unknown eyes watching. There is a rustling in the trees and a dark secret in the mountains. The trap is set.
It is quiet here, brother. Too quiet for my tastes. Something feels wrong. Shh! There! Movement in the tree line. An ambush is imminent. We must be ready. If we cross the river, we could escape through the southern gates. Or we could attempt to survive the ambush through force of arms. This hill would make a good defensive position en route, should more forces arrive. Prepare for battle, brother, and may your blade strike true!
The enemy is upon us, and we don't have much time to prepare our defences. I'm turning all bar one of my units to face the charging enemy, pulling my Azure Dragons back to fire over the top. And using Suen Tren's ability to take the damage out of the charge before committing him into battle. Swen Ren is going to ride out with her cavalry and begin flanking the enemy, hitting their archers and taking out their strategist, before quickly attacking the enemy in the rear. This enemy army is mainly weak sword units, and they can hardly make a dent in my front line. Even with the advantage of surprise, they are slaughtered. With some of the enemy units dealt with, I'm going to peel off a few of my own and get them moving towards the defensible position on the other side of the river. Before long, the enemy is in full rout, so I'm sending my cavalry after them to make sure they don't come back. I don't want to hang around here longer than I must, so my army has continued along the road and begun the slow crossing of the river.
Enemy reinforcements are arriving!
Right, we are outnumbered, so our strategy is now key to surviving this. Swen Ren has a passive ability to increase the speed of units around him, so keeping him close to the army is essential. Both he and Swen Ren are stronger in battle when fighting together, due to them being siblings and close friends. However, if one hero were to fall, the other would go berserk in their quest for vengeance, gaining large buffs for a limited time. I want to be in position when these reinforcements engage, otherwise we will delve further into chaos, so I need to move as quickly as I can. My front line consists of mercenary swords, which I've put into shield wall to protect them from the incoming charge. And my protectors of heaven are moving to the flanks. One is already in position and in square formation. The other is unfortunately caught out before they can get into position. My cavalry is heading out into the forest to seek cover and come in for a rear charge. The enemy is drawing in. The Azure Dragons are just getting into position. Hopefully they'll be able to loose their arrows in time to do some damage. Now I need to move my cavalry into position behind the enemy. That's really not good at all. There are further reinforcements coming from the other side of the river. I'm going to have to turn the Azure Dragons around to stop them. I am well and truly outnumbered here. It is clear we need to flee, so let's work on carving a path out of here. Sun Ren is going to unleash a Heartseeker at Zhong Liao. This should deal huge amounts of damage to him and make it easier to kill him in the duel. Once on foot, we'll use Flames of the Phoenix to bring him down further. With him dead, his regiments will suffer a huge morale penalty, which should help us break through and escape. My cavalry have taken heavy losses from the enemy spears, but they are still going to be valuable in helping me escape, using them as a rear impact force to break the morale of the enemy. The rear attackers have hit my Azure Dragons and begun to flank them. There is no hope in getting them out of this battle. They're going to have to hold the enemy off for as long as they can. Swen Ren is again going to fire a Heartseeker at Shi Huang, nearly killing him, and then engaging with the duel for the final blow. My Azure Dragons are making a huge effort to keep the enemy pinned down, and my front line is starting to break through and rout the enemy, shoring up the way to the extraction point. The final general is dead. The morale of his army should begin to crumble without the leadership, but even so, they still far outnumber my weakened forces. So I'm making a break for the extraction point while I still can. I don't have a lot of time before the backline gives out and the rest of the attackers pursue us, so I'm going to have to put as much as I can between us and them. My Azure Dragons are in a formation where the front line is in melee and the back are still able to fire, maximising damage output. With only a few enemy units left, I commit all of my remaining front line to kill them off. If they want to escape, they're going to have to fight for it. My front line is now free, so I'm grouping them together for their escape. Lady Swen will lead the army out, Swen Tren holding the rear, giving a speed boost to anyone escaping over the line, before he too escapes. I've sacrificed my mercenary companies and Azure Dragons to ensure Swen Ren and Swen Tren escape with their lives, but that is a trade I will gladly make. Heroes play a huge role in the campaign, and although I've lost this battle, saving both characters is a big morale victory. Swen Ren and Swen Tren will be key in getting vengeance on the treacherous Cao Cao, and I will have my vengeance. To play this demo for yourself, be sure to come and see us at Gamescom. In the meantime, check out the Steam page for more information.